Good morning and happy Saturday. Okay, it's a beautiful Saturday here after a lot of wind in Seattle, but the reason why I have disappointment on my face is because it's Saturday and I recorded a video on Friday after a run of, I think it was my fifth day. Like, I was had recorded a video every weekday, and I did record it, but it didn't save. Technology is my enemy. It is. It's official. It just it's something that you know it's something that I fight with a lot, and that's not the subject that I want to get into. But I did want to say, like, I was wanting to and had kept up the consistency, and I was struggling with it some more this morning, and now I'm finally, on to moving on and recording this video. Um, I am excited about reading chapter 25 of First Samuel. Um, the saga continues. It's really interesting, and I had some things to say about it in the last video. We'll see what happens in this one. Okay. Chapter 25. Now Samuel died. Okay. And all Israel assembled and mourned for him. And so I had commented about, with some of the other main figures who we've been focusing on, Saul and David, I was like, oh, and not that I forgot about Samuel. This is the book of First Samuel. But I was kind of refreshing our memory that he was like the prophet in Israel. And obviously, he was a very important figure because all of Israel mourned for him. And they buried him at the home of Ramah. Then David moved down into the desert of Paran. And I also was saying, like, there's a reference there, and I thought that it was right at first saying that the Paran had a meaning, and I will probably stop and reference when I feel like, oh, that name has a meaning, or something. But that was for a different reference, and I was like, okay, we'll move on from the references if it just says, oh, in the Masoretic or Septuagint texts, it's maybe a different. Let's see. I think I've said enough that I need to stop and read the reference. So Hebrew and some Septuagint manuscripts, other Septuagint manuscripts say Maon. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. Maon. A certain man in Maon. So it does go on to talk about that area, of the name of that area being Maon, who had property there at Carmel, was very wealthy. He had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep, which he was shearing in Carmel. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, but her husband was surly and mean in his dealings. He was a Calebite. While David was in the wilderness, he heard that Nabal was shearing sheep. So he sent 10 young men and said to them, go up to Nabal at Carmel and greet him in my name. Say to him, long life to you, good health to you and your household, and good health to all that is yours. Now I hear that it is sheep shearing time. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them. And the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. Ask your own servants, and they will tell you. Therefore, be favorable toward my men, since we come at a festive time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them. I was commenting on that, how he kind of, played on, like, this is a festive time for you guys, I didn't, how about, we've treated you well. how about sharing? Let's share in the festivities and one party with you guys. When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name. Then they waited. Nabal answered David's servants, "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Many servants are breaking away from their masters these days. Why should I take bread and water and the meat I have slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men coming from who knows where?" David's men turned around and went back. When they arrived, they reported every word. David said to his men, "Each of you strap on your sword." So they did, and David strapped on his as well. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. So I I had some comments on this too. Like David is like, everybody has their limits. I've been dealing with Saul, who's after me to take my life. I did everything I could to treat you guys right. And this man is like, basically assuming the worst of me, despite all of that, because he was thinking, well, people can, these are some rebels, which David, he was under King Saul, but any rebelliousness or fleeing was for his very life, so it's not like he's a rebel out here, as Nabal is assuming of him. So it says, and now it goes on. One of the servants told Abigail, Nabal's wife, "David sent messengers from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day, they were a wall around us the whole time. We were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him." Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs, it's just a measurement, of roasted grain, because it has a reference, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs. Now, I would say that is some fancy fare, right? I mean, not only does it sound abundant, but it's the good stuff. And loaded them on donkeys. Then she told her servants, "Go ahead and I'll follow you." But she did not tell her husband, Nabal. As she came riding her donkey into a mountain ravine, there was David and his men descending toward her, and she met them. Okay, this is where I wanted to comment as well. Now, it says in the text that Abigail was both intelligent and beautiful, right? And they should add to that, and brave. But we can see that, like, she's coming against these armed men. She's coming not against, but she's confronting them, and she's part of Nabal's household. So let's see what happens. David had just said, "It's been useless, all my watching over this fellow's property in the wilderness so that nothing of his was missing. He has paid me back evil for good. May God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male of all who belong to him." Okay, so there is a reference here where it says, "May God deal with David." Okay, and the reference says, some Septuagint manuscripts, Hebrew, the Hebrew says, "with David's enemies." May God deal with David or David's enemies, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male. Basically, he's taken like an oath, um, upon himself or whether it's his enemies. He's saying this is something he is settled on doing. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. And she is really making herself vulnerable. She fell at his feet and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. Please pay no attention, my lord, to that wicked man Nabal." So he is just like his name. His name means fool, and folly goes with him. And she's telling it like it is. Um, so yeah, so I had some things to say about this in my last video, but I just find this interesting. It's like she acknowledges that the character of her husband, um, and I was thinking like, man, he didn't have a chance with a name like that to live up to. And as for me, your servant, I did not see the men my Lord sent. And now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives, and as you live, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who are intent on harming my Lord be like Nabal. Okay. And let this gift which your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the men who follow you. So she's not only addressing him as like, oh, please, I surrender. I know that you and your men are strong, and I'm trying to save my family and my people. I feel like she's also has some consideration of